What's up, y'all? Hey, it's Toby D, and you already know what it is. It is pound for pound. And man, shout out to JR Clark, man, and shout out to everybody that tunes in with us now every other Tuesday night. Matter of fact, this Tuesday night coming up at 7:30 p.m. And you guys are always live in the chat room. We appreciate that, man. Very excited to have some knowledgeable fans in there and making it so easy on me and JR to really have a fun show. And hopefully any other guests we bring in will feel that same fun vibe that you all bring and the knowledge as well. Hey man, I'm doing this video today. I'm sure many of you saw the video that JR did, and we're going to talk about that in a minute because it kind of ties in to what I'm going to talk about. But I'm doing this video, man, specifically to talk about two guys that need to bring the juice in order to help the Atlanta Falcons to be able to get that D-line to do what it needs to do, starting off earlier than what it did in the second half of the season that sparked that 6-2 record that they had to really get going. And of course, if you haven't guessed it, it is new add-on to the coaching staff, Tosh Lupoi. Now, came from the Cleveland Browns from last year as their defensive line coach, and now is with the Atlanta Falcons as our defensive line coach, paired with Jess Simpson, who's already been with the Atlanta Falcons as like the assistant D-line coach, helping Dan Quinn last year to coach that D-line up, which we saw that did not work, along with the defensive play calling. But that's another subject for another matter. I'm not even going to rehash that. But anyway, nonetheless, Jess Simpson is now paired up with this guy, Tosh Lupoi. Also worked with Nick Saban for a little time there, probably about 4 years or so as a linebackers coach and D-line coach there as well. These two guys, we're going to talk about how they can get the D-line going in 2020. And the first thing, if you guys have already guessed it, it's talent. Talent, talent, talent. Now, it's clear that we look like we are in a rebuild defensive line and pass rushing linebackers mode. Of course, you know Vic Beasley is gone. That's 8 sacks already out of your fold that you don't have. And it's pretty much Grady Jarrett, and then there's everybody else. Takk McKinley is not even a close second. He's a distant second right now. A lot is being put on him to be able to carry the mantle a little bit more with Vic Beasley being gone, but we don't know if that is exactly going to materialize the way that we want. But you got to get Tosh Lupoi and Jess Simpson some talent. With Jack Crawford going into free agency, Tyler Davidson going into free agency, whom the Falcons seem like they are high on bringing them back. It was already whispered that they wanted to get a long-term deal done with Tyler Davidson when they brought him here under that year deal that they gave him. Both parties were interested in that, and I think that you're going to see him as a more reasonable option for the Atlanta Falcons. Now, I know some of you have already seen the news that the Carolina Panthers, under Matt Rule, now that's the new coach over there, is going to release Dontari Poe. And many of you are saying and suggesting that we should go and re-sign Dontari Poe back. But here's the thing. We don't have the money to afford what a 29-year-old Dontari Poe would cost, because we're looking for, so the Atlanta Falcons say, Dan Quinn and company, marquee pass rusher. And we're going to talk about that in a minute too, because I heard some news about that last night while I was on Twitter. So that we're going to get to. But we're looking for a marquee pass rusher to replace the fact that we're going to allow Austin Hooper to walk, who's probably going to garner about 10 to 12 million per. So we need someone that's going to not cost us too much, because we ain't paying no $22 million. I'm sorry. A guy who only had 8.5 sacks, whom y'all seem to keep comparing to a Vic Beasley for whatever reason. But nonetheless, we don't have the money to do that. No, we're going to pay somebody from Jacksonville no $22 million asking price. Especially when now they're talking about franchise tagging him over there, and the franchise will be worth more, about $19.3 million. So if we're going to do that, we can't get Dontari Poe, y'all. We got to move on from that and take Tyler Davidson, who started really coming on well under Raheem Morris, now the defensive coordinator. And I believe and hope that Tosh Lupoi can get him going. But you got to add more talent with Tosh. When Tosh was over there with Cleveland Browns, he had Myles Garrett, the first overall pick in 2017, in which Takk McKinley came out of that draft too as well. But then in the third round, they drafted a guy that same year, if I'm going to say his name right here, Larry Ogunjobi. Dude had a nice year last year for the Cleveland Browns under Tosh Lupoi. And I believe that the defensive tackles that Jess Simpson is going to be over are going to be able to eat. But you got to keep getting this man some talent. Now, word is, and I mentioned this, that Marcus Golden, I don't know much about the guy. I know that he was drafted in 2015 by the Arizona Cardinals. He has missed some time due to injuries or such with the Arizona Cardinals, but had a great year under the New York Giants last year with 10 sacks for that squad. And I'm hearing from some of the Giants fans who were saying that he did that with a garbage D-line. So that bodes well for the Atlanta Falcons if they go out to him. Now, word is that he's going to be asking between 13 and 14 million, in which I think if the Falcons are interested, according to Kelsey Conway and Phil Yates, if they are interested in this guy, that should not be too high of an asking price to go after this dude. When this dude has been on the field, he has been able to get into the double-digit range of sacks. Also, I saw he wore the number 44. So put those two together. He comes here. He's probably going to take the number 44 that Vic Beasley had here as the Atlanta Falcons. Hopefully that don't be some kind of curse. But we ain't going to get into curses right now. We're going to just keep on moving. But they got to keep getting him some talent if they want Tosh Lupoi and Jess Simpson to have success on this D-line. They had 27.5 sacks over there, ladies and gentlemen. Sheldon Richards was also on that D-line, and Olivier Vernon was also on that D-line last year with Myles Garrett. So you see the talent was there. Now, Olivier Vernon, I don't think had the year that he had with the New York Giants prior to coming there, but still had a pretty decent year for the Cleveland Browns and still was some talent to add to that defensive line along with Sheldon Richardson. So we got to build some talent, whether it's in free agency, whether it's in the draft, something that we are all heavily keeping a close eye on. There are guys that have moved up their draft stock since after the combine, and there are some guys I'm sure that are probably dropping some because their draft stock from the combine performances that they put in didn't look so well. But we're going to talk about that when me and JR talk on Tuesday night more in depth about this roster and some of those things that went on in the combine that just passed on Tuesday night. So y'all tune into that. But the talent level is not there yet with Grady Jarrett in this rebuild mode that we are in right now with Jack Crawford. We got Alan Bailey here. We don't know what John Kaminsky is going to be yet. And I'm sure many of you have seen the video by now, the clip on Twitter or wherever you've been looking at on social media about Deidre Sanat working out, getting hit in the stomach with a medicine ball while doing pull-ups or whatnot. I'm going to tell you right now, before that medicine ball even hit me, I'm probably falling to the ground. But we don't know why Deidre Sanat did not get a lot of playing time in 2019. And he is ready to come back with vengeance right now to see if he can claim a spot on this D-line with Tosh Lupoi and Jess Simpson running things, of course. But we need the talent. Number 2 for Tosh Lupoi and Jess Simpson to get this thing going with the D-line attitude. Now, I'm going to tell you the stuff that I have watched about Tosh Lupoi. Dude has one of those commanding voices that just make you feel like you got to put on your man britches and come with it every day. That's exactly how he makes you feel, because if you don't, you're going to look heavily embarrassed and probably feel less of a man dealing with someone like him. He's who they call, or what they call, a man's man. That's definitely what I see as Tosh Lupoi. A very young guy, very energetic and fiery, who I believe can get the attitude out of these guys. Now, we already know what Grady Jarrett comes with, and we know what Takk McKinley comes with when he's on. But for whatever reason, the last 2 seasons, Takk just haven't looked like he's been in it. Now, I saw on Twitter something about another diet plan he is on again with the Atlanta Falcons. And I don't look too much into that, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all that know Takk McKinley since 2018 and the Falcons, they've been playing around with his weight since then, and he has been tweeting it out ever since. So I don't look too far into any of that, other than to say this: he has got to show and improve in 2020 because the Falcons are relying on him. It's up in the air if they're going to re-sign him or they're going to pick up his 5th-year option. One time Dan Quinn says no, but Thomas Dimitroff says it's undecided, and Dan Quinn says go with Thomas Dimitroff. So we're going to go with Thomas Dimitroff, and the fact that they don't know if they're going to pick up Takk McKinley's 5th-year option or not, what should tell you all you need to know. They don't know what he can be, and you got to hope that Tosh Lupoi and Jess Simpson can really help to bring out the attitude that we know this guy had, the fire he had on draft night. Get to the D quarterback. We need to see that guy back in full stride in 2020. But who else do you have? If you bring Tyler Davidson back, I think that would be a great move. I don't know if Jack Crawford is going to be back here, ladies and gentlemen. And I don't know if Adrian Claiborne is going to be a viable option for the Falcons to go back to. But you would have to think that they don't want to sit here trying to rebuild the D-line that much unless, which is why you can figure that Arthur Blank brought in an analytics crew at the combine. They're going to be relying on a lot of rookies. And looking at that roster, they got a lot to do, man. Yes, we do have talent, but they have a lot to do, Thomas Dimitroff and Dan Quinn, that is, if they're going to get this roster to a competitive roster that they needed to get them past 2 7-9 seasons. Matter of fact, if you hadn't checked that video out that I put out about the 79 seasons, the vibe of the fan base, also JR had a video he just did when he's talking about bolstering the secondary to help the D-line. What you saw, how the D-line improved based on the improvement of that secondary with Raheem Morris over it last season. So we're thinking that could be a strategy that the Falcons take to be able to boast that line, boast that secondary up if they are unable to get the marquee guys that they would like to get via free agency to be able to contribute on that pass rush. But guys, we need a D-line that can give us a semblance of what Tosh Lupoi was able to get out of that D-line with the Cleveland Browns last season. 27.5 sacks, and that's just on the front themselves out of 38 total sacks. Guys, we totaled that with the whole defense of 28. So we was up on that D-line by 0.5 sacks. Now, I know you guys is going to say, hey, sacks are overrated. Yes, okay. But like we told y'all before, and JR has mentioned this time and time again, unfortunately, that is one of the most important metrics of anyone else to gauge the success of a D-line or not. And we did not have success in that area last season. And if we can get anywhere at least 20 to 22 sacks off the D-line and then sprinkle in some safety blitzes or some cornerback blitzes, linebacker blitzes or whatnot, just to get the sack numbers up at least to 35. Come on now, that's normally what we normally do. Then I'm happy with that. But talent, attitude is what you need to help get the defensive line going, and I believe Tosh Lupoi can do that. Now, the third thing that I feel like the Atlanta Falcons, Tosh Lupoi, and Jess Simpson are going to need to get the D-line going. Stunts, 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 and more twists and stunts. Ladies and gentlemen, that is one of the staples, prime staples of our D-line, with the athleticism and speed that we have up front and how we get to the quarterback in the first place. Why we didn't do it a lot in the second half is beyond me. In the first half, excuse me, because we did do it a lot and pick it back up in the second half. Why we didn't do it a lot then, I have no idea, Dan Quinn. But you know that's something that you did over in Seattle. Don't be stopping it here. And one of the things I saw of Tosh Lupoi, this guy understands the stunt and twist game. And he has had practices, if you go back to some of his days at Alabama, where he's shown that they've had straight up just stunt emphasis periods in practices. And that's what we are going to need. And we have to look for players that are able to do stunts and twists. So 3 things already we just covered that Tosh Lupoi and Jess Simpson need to have in order to get the D-line going. What's the first one? Talent. You got to have that talent. The second one, attitude. These guys need to be on fire on game day. They need to be ready to pop somebody out. Okay, and that we didn't see a lot of from the Atlanta Falcons. And we know Takk McKinley has it in him to do it. We know Grady Jarrett, who has shown it since he got his big payday, can do it, whom we are going to be looking at to be the main leader now that some of these guys are not going to be around him of that defensive line group. And he is very boisterous and has become that way, especially last year, not biting his tongue about what he feels his guys need to do to step up for that defensive line, not just that second half of the season, but also has already put it out by 2020. You got to come with it. So, talent, attitude, and stunts and twists. First 3 things. Let's look at the 4th thing. Now, this is probably not going to happen because Dan Quinn felt very comfortable when he came here at rearranging that locker room, renovating it, making it the locker room that he wanted to see. From the difference from the D block locker room, when you had the linebackers on this side doing their thing, over there Sean Witherspoon, Mike Peterson, Steven Nichols, and all those guys. Y'all remember D block. I know some of you still go back and watch the videos every now and then and get that nostalgia feel about that D block squad over there. And you had defensive line and they section and offensive line and so on. You know what I'm getting at. Tosh Lupoi, Jess Simpson need to see if they can convince Dan Quinn to do that. Now, in this new renovated look, he's got offensive line over there with Matt Ryan, some of the offensive guys mixed in with the defensive guys. Now, I understand the brotherhood, but Dan Quinn, I just think there are certain things, if it works, don't try to fix it. I think the D-line, the linebacker group, the defensive guys need to be around each other to really get that rah-rah, energetic, fiery feel birthed every day on Sunday, not just on Sunday, but during practice week. And I just don't know if they can do that when they're mixed in with the offensive guys and special teams guys. I'm just saying, if Tosh Lupoi and Jess Simpson do that, I think that you can have a formidable defense that's got that fire breathed in them every day, coming to work in practice, and it's showing at practice, and it spills out on game day. That's all I'm saying. But we know that we need this D-line to get going early. We don't know what's going to happen in the draft or anything. A lot of us coming out with mock draft. I just did my first one ever. Never did a mock draft before for the Atlanta Falcons. Now, of course, in my mock, I had you taking Trayvon Diggs at 16. Now, I know a lot of people going to holler about that because they want a defensive guy. And you're seeing mocks lately that is mocking Kinlaw and Brown gone in the top 10. Some mocks right now, if you've been looking at it, have Derrick Brown going to Jacksonville, and they have, if I'm not mistaken, they have my boy Kinlaw going to, it might be backwards. I think it's Derrick Brown going to Jacksonville and Kinlaw going to the Carolina Panthers, or it's one of them two. Whichever one is 7 and 9. You know about it. Come in and let me know which one it is, because I don't know right now, and really I don't care. But if that is the case, I think for me, like what JR said, we need to strengthen this secondary to continue to help the D-line and possibly pick up more coverage sacks for the unit up front, especially if we're not able to get the marquee guy that we would like to get. We already heard about Dante Fowler. I don't see us even going after the guy from Jacksonville, because if he wants $22 million a year, it ain't gonna happen. But for me, guys, in 2020, these 4 things need to be dealt with for me to see Tosh Lupoi and Jess Simpson to get this thing going. Man, y'all let me know what y'all think about what the D-line need to be doing. Shout out to one of the my Twitter family who tweeted out that roster for me so I can get a look at it. And I'm telling you, man, they got some things to do. So if you want to talk about the roster before we get to it on Tuesday, please comment Let me know what you're thinking about where the roster is right now. What you think this defensive line needs to do. What Tosh Lupoi and Jess Simpson need to do to really get this thing going and to have success on the D-line. Hey, look, that's all for me, man. This pound for pound, I'm Toby D. Peace. I'm out.